Alright, so recently I platinumed Fortnite, which is one of the most highly anticipated videos on my channel for pretty much the last year because of the many platinum challenges that had it as the punishment if I failed them. But seeing as that saga is now over, a new one must take its place. So today I'm introducing to you all the Editor's Choice Challenge, a platinum trophy challenge featuring every single game from the Editor's Choice catalog on PlayStation, with titles from this year, years before, and some of the best games to ever release. Now this is the list without taking into account the games I have already completed. Editor, please edit this. And here is the list with the games I have already finished. And if you want to see the videos on those, check out the playlist linked below. So the goal is to finish the remaining 150 or so games before the channel hits 1.2 million subscribers. And if I can't do that, then I have to platinum Wolfenstein 2, which is one of the hardest games on PlayStation, and the highest liked punishment on my recent community post. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Also, there is still a few days left, so if you do want to sway that vote, by all means do so. Anyways, today I decided to kick off the challenge on a high note with one of the best games released in the last year and good enough to be included in this challenge. That being Dispatch. Now, Dispatch released on October 22nd, 2025, so it's only about 2 months old, and it made waves in the gaming community, setting some insanely high player counts and sales for a Telltale style game in recent years. Also, it features multiple characters with voice actors from shows like Breaking Bad, and even a few content creators, which is one of the coolest things to see a well-made game do. Aside from all of that, however, the game is also a fairly easy platinum, rated at a 2 out of 10 for difficulty, taking 2 to 3 playthroughs, and the guide says 25 hours, but it only took me about 16 to do. And in total, there is 36 trophies including the platinum as well. And with that all said, let us begin. Also, join the Discord link below to know what game I'm doing next, and because it's drier than your mom's pussy. So starting off with stage 1, this is the romance playthrough where you can romance INVISIGAL or Blond Blazer. Your choice does not matter at all, but make sure to keep track of other choices you make throughout because there is a lot of differing options that give trophies in between multiple runs. I, however, did choose to do the Blazer romance first because no comment. Before the entire first episode, it pretty much just has a lot of setup for the base lore of the game, some characters, villains, heroes, all of the above. Essentially, the guy we play as is named Robert Robertson. His hero name is Mecha Man. Also, little Robbie has no real power, so it's kind of one of those Iron Man situations. The main villain of the game is Shroud, a very evil guy who killed Robert's dad, and then also destroyed Robert's mech a few minutes into the game after they had a little scuffle. Robert then wakes up a few months later after being in a coma with a broken arm, and he holds a press conference, and then on his way out he also runs into a few criminals robbing a store, and our boy just has to intervene because he has hero blood pouring through his veins. So, we got our ass kicked. The heavens, however, were watching, and a blonde, beautiful goddess named Blond Blazer showed up to save us, and hence the romance playthrough shall now begin. Also, huge shout out to the guide for this game. I followed it and all of its steps, and I had 0 issues throughout. So Blond Blazer then takes us to get a drink, and we chat for a while, being a bit flirty. Ignore us spitting into her mouth, which led to her fleeing the scene. A man named Flambe then walks up, and fun fact, all the people you see on screen right now, we actually become friends with by the end of the game. Again, ignore us burning Flambe's entire body. It's not personal. So yeah, we got kicked out of the bar. But Blazer still finds us and then flies us to a more private location, a billboard. How romantic. And this is when the two have more back and forth, and we also just end up kissing her. Oh my god, I'm so hard right now. Anyway, she finally spills the beans about recruiting us to work for the SDN, which is the Superhero Dispatch Network, as a dispatcher, hence the title of the game. And then there's a little trial run where we do dispatching, the actual gameplay of this game, and the reason it's titled Dispatch if you couldn't connect that dot. And after that ends, she then hires us and flies away, oh so mysteriously. Also, she left us on the billboard, by the way, but it's fine, she's hot. So that ends off episode 1. The trophy from it pops right after. Picking up on episode 2 of 8, by the way. So this is when the real story begins, and it opens up with us at the SDN headquarters talking to a very funny character named Waterboy. But Blazer interrupts our bromance sooner than it began, and she takes us to a conference room to strip down and put on our work clothes. Just imagine if the roles were reversed. We can't have these double standards. Also, this girl named INVISIGAL, who was the other romance option, was watching. Diddy levels of cuck right there, I can't lie. So then you get introduced to the office we will work in. Fist bump a strong, brolic man at the urinals, and then you go down to the records room to meet Chase, or Trackstar, who is Robert's long-lost friend from his childhood. Shout out to the OGs. Also, he is old as shit because every time he uses his speed powers, it ages him. Keep that in mind for the future. And then finally you meet the Z team, which is what they call the worst group of heroes at the SDN. Also, they are all villains but reformed to be heroes. That's just a little bit more info for you. Anyways, the team consists of Sonar, who was voiced by Charlie, by the way, which is very funny. Then Flambe, INVISIGAL, Coop, Punch Up, who is voiced by Jacksepticeye, which is even funnier. And then Malevola, Golem, and finally Prism. After that intro, we begin the first shift, and it was kind of a mess. Like all things, it started off rocky, but by the end of the game, this whole hero dispatching thing became a breeze. So you just do the work for a minute, but after the shift is nearing its end, a call comes up for Granny's Donut Shop, where an armed robbery is taking place. And this also just happened to be a donut shop where INVISIGAL was banned from. So naturally, she just had to redeem herself so she would be allowed back. And it was pretty much a mess from the start. I did have to do a lot of hacking, however, throughout to assist her because she is low-key a lost cause. But in this hacking, I did get a trophy from just waiting for the time limit to be near the end, and then completing it called Time's Running Out. Easy peasy. There was then one more final stand-up, and after the dust settled, the perp was gone, and so was Granny's pants. Poor Granny. That was then it for the shift, and we got a little recap. Oh, look at that perfection. Thanks, trophy guide. Also, not failing or missing anything is a trophy called Shift was lit, and here is that popping. Robert and INVISIGAL then had it out at each other in the break room because of her absolute failure. And she seemed to, for some reason, think it was a good save, but I think this frame alone proves otherwise.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Anyway, she just punches us in the face, and then the trophy pops after good old Charlie drops this banger line.
You gonna eat those Twinks?
What did he say?
God, I love his deep, succulent voice. There is then a little wrap-up conversation between some people until you end up outside, and Phenomenal Man flies down, who is one of the highest respected heroes. Also, he is dating Blonde Blazer. It's fine. But they just fly off, and that's essentially it for episode 2. With another trophy popping called Love Him From My Mouth to My Butt. And this is actually in reference to us picking the worst donut in the donut shop scene earlier and getting this dialogue line.
Yep, you got me. I love gobbling on hot, sloppy donuts. Love them from my mouth to my butt.
Me too, Robert. Me too. Wait.
4K. Got you. I got you in 4K, Daddy.
Oh yeah, and after that episode ended, I made a second save and real fast replayed the beginning of that first shift to get a trophy called Nailed It from achieving a perfect dispatch with one hero. Now you'll honestly get this on accident later on, but I just did it now because I can. And after sending Sonar to this one job, I got 100% coverage and the trophy popped right away. So episode 3 then began for real this time, and it first starts with us and Royd, that bathroom guy, packing up Robert's broken Mecha Man suit and taking it to the SDN. This is because Roy's job is to get us back into the field, and throughout the entire game we try and fail with him at that. But back at SDN, Blazer then pulls us aside into her office because it's cut day. A special day where the lowest rated hero on the board of infamy gets cut, or fired from the SDN. So that's the big issue this episode, and I'm not sure what idiot thought up this dumbass concept because it leads to just horrible things. Like seriously, so much conflict in this game could have been avoided had we not fired someone. And this shift was horrible. Everyone was just sabotaging each other the entire time, leading to numerous fails, injuries. It's just a mess. And speaking of messes, I also somehow failed the call with a 70% or higher success chance. Actual diarrhea levels of RNG. But it was a trophy, which is very funny, so here it is. Anyways, this failure just continued on and on until once again INVISIGAL decides to one-up everyone, and she just straight sabotages someone on the team. And this all led to us having a meeting about what the actual is going on. And after the meeting, which consisted of us giving everyone a pep talk and then heading out to actually work together, it all came together. Yes, who would have thought when the team isn't actively ruining each other's lives like the Las Vegas Raiders record this year, we would succeed. That is down horrendous. What are we doing, Vegas? Bring it back to LA.
That's what I'm saying.
Anyways, while the team was succeeding, your boy Robbie also did, and I hacked something so fast it still had a third of the timer left at the end, which was another trophy called Burning Chrome. Very splendid. So the shift then ended and all was well for most people, you know, besides the person on the bottom of the list, which just so happened to be INVISIGAL. And she was smoking a cig at the park when we confronted her and then gave her one last job to redeem herself. This job also happened to be another robbery with that same dude from the donut shop. Long story short, we had to help her a lot with hacking once more, but all in all, she did succeed and save the day for once, dragging the perp in for questioning with a standing ovation from the office. That also did nudge her above the other two lowest performers, who also just so happened to be tied. They really are making this as annoying as possible, aren't they? So we had to pick between Sonar and Coop, and I chose to kick Coop off because, I mean, come on, I can't get rid of White Boy of the Year, let's be real. And that also does give you a trophy. And in the other playthrough, we are going to do the opposite choice of this, FYI. So that's it for episode 3. Episode 4 then begins, and this one was a bit more of a mellow episode without too much craziness occurring. Well, that is except for one thing. INVISIGAL dreamt that Robert f***ed her, so that was weird. Also, the Mecha Man suit is still a failure. Rest in peace to our dreams. The first shift was also very boring. Literally nothing insane happened. But in the break room for lunch, we did throw spaghetti on Flambe's face. I call that the house special. I'm gonna kill him. Oh my god! Also, during the second shift, I did farm out a trophy called Fool's Luck from succeeding on a call with less than 15% success. And this is possible because we now have Waterboy on our team in replacement for Coop. Not a great replacement, but hey, Phillip Rivers is back at QB for the Colts, so anything is possible, Gramps. But this trophy just has us resetting over and over at the beginning of shift 2 until it succeeds. So here's that trophy pop. And the rest of the shift was then very standard. So after it ends, we were just chilling and spotted Waterboy hiding in a closet. Good old Robert then gave him a classic pep talk and Waterboy gained some confidence. Also, we got a trophy, which is neat. And before the episode ends, there is then a very critical romance moment between INVISIGAL and Blonde Blazer. And since we are doing Blazer this run, I did go with her, and we then went on a little dinner date. Also finding out that she isn't even a blonde in the process. Might need to rethink our romance options. I only f with blondes. I'm just kidding. So, yeah, we ate her mouth. That was then basically it for the episode. How cute. So then episode 5 begins, at least I think. I've lost track, to be honest. Anyways, I had a little flashback to when Mecha Man was still Mecha Man, but we then got the shift work very fast after, and I got a trophy almost right away doing it called Power Trip, from expanding powers to 4 different heroes. And this is in reference to us sending heroes to training whenever it pops up. Doing this gives them another power to use passively or on purpose. Very helpful, by the way, I would recommend. So here's that trophy pop after the 4th one got finished with. The shift then ended and we talked to some of the team in the break room. Also finding out that the Z team is trying to figure out what hero Robert was in his prime, and that's not good if you can't tell since they are all villains, or they were villains, some of which we had encounters with in the past. But then we got back to work as soon as we left. Gosh, I just love corporate America. Anyways, this shift was pretty standard like most, but after it ended, I got a plethora of trophies. First being one called From Zero to Hero, from maxing out a hero. Very easily done if you just succeed with the same hero often, and you'll probably do it on accident. And then I got the min-max trophy from upgrading a stat to 10, and I would recommend trying to max out a different one for each hero just to have more range. And finally, I got the career development trophy from getting to max level as a dispatcher and reaching the dispatcher rank. Very nice indeed. But this episode isn't even close to being finished because the team invites us to a villain bar to get f***ed up after work, and that's it's not a great idea, to be honest. And almost instantly we got outed as a hero because, I mean, just look at us. So there is a very big bar fight, and it goes on for a long ass time with flashbacks between the future with Z team at Taco Bell and then the bar fight that happened before they went there. Very fun and very good storytelling. But this all led to Robert being asked who he was before Z team and dispatching. And for some more backdrop, Mecha Man also cut off Flambe's finger, or a few of them, and he also burned his eyebrows off in the first episode. So he absolutely hates Mecha Man right now, which is why when I told the truth, the fiery lad then lost it and tried to kill us. Thankfully, Golem, the giant-ass rock man, stepped in front to save little Robert. So Flambe is basically out and he flies away, but then everyone else told their real names and it was a great bonding experience. With a trophy popping after called That's Like a Real Superhero, from telling the truth and the episode ending. So episode 6 then begins, and again we tried out the new Mecha Man suit, and you know, again it failed. Also, Roy Void is about to give up because without the Astro Pulsers like the suit's old power source, it just won't work at all. Also, the Astro Pulse is like this big lost treasure thing in this game that Shroud and everyone is after, and it takes a big stamp on the story in this episode and in the last two, so we will be hearing more about it now. But basically, it got lost in Mecha Man's explosion from episode 1, and not many people have seen it. But anyways, the first shift then begins. You know, it's very standard like usual. In fact, almost all of the shifts besides the cut shift and the final one in the game are for the most part easy. I also did get another trophy in it called Getting to Know You from discovering every hero's starting power. And here it is after I got Waterboys, who was the final one since he is our newest recruit. And after that shift, which was the second one actually, because we missed the first one after our mishap, it was the end of the day. And everyone then threw Robert a housewarming party at his apartment, which I'm fairly sure isn't a new one, but hey, who cares? A party is a party. Long story short, there was a lot of, you know, partying. Robert danced with Blazer, but then Chase lost on INVISIGAL because she was trying to convince all of us to go after the Astral Pulse right now, because we did manage to locate it. However, it is in like the middle of an obvious as trap. Anyway, she then storms out, and Flambe also does show up and punches us, but in a wholesome way. Hashtag domestic violence. Robert and Chasen have a bro-to-bro talk. That is before we see INVISIGAL in the trying to get the Astral Pulse back. What a Nimrod. Anyway, she actually does end up getting it, but then Shroud shows up and nearly kills her. Actually, he would've, but Chase brings out Trackstar one more time to save her. And this is one of the most cinematic moments of the game, because if you remember, every time he uses his power, he ages, and bro's looking like Black Einstein, so his clock is nearing its final ding. And after he does save INVISIGAL, he then drops down. Rest in peace, Chase. Almost. He's not dead yet. So that's episode 6 finished with. The 7th one and second to last one then begins, and it opens up with a flashback to Chase and Robert as kids. See, I told you they were OG homies. Also, you can't get a trophy here, but I failed to because I didn't see it in the list. I know, I suck at trophy hunting. Anyways, after that it flashes back to present, and yeah, reality sucks. Chase will be fine though, trust me. So we then begin the next shift, and it was a little rough today, mostly because we lost a member of the team, which sucks, but I did end up getting a trophy called Work Spouse from reaching max synergy with a hero duo. And this is actually very easy. You just pair up duos often and succeed in missions to raise it, so here's that trophy pop. And later in that shift, near the end and the actual end of it, I got 2 more trophies. First, called Overkill from covering the entire graph on a single call, truly ensuring our success, and then one called Modded from reaching all bonuses and avoiding all failures. And this is in reference to when certain missions have a little bonus marker or a fail marker, and then you just have to succeed on all of them for the trophy. It's actually pretty easy. But there is then a team meeting, and everyone votes to cut INVISIGAL from the team for what she did to Chase, and we agree. And you also do choose to cut her because it helps with Blazer's romance. And then in the locker room with her, we're kind of just a dick because, I mean, Shoddy is for the streets, I can't lie. Also, she tells us that she kind of did blow up Mecha Man in the first episode. I could smell the rat on her, I knew it. So after that, Robert then goes to drink at a villain bar for some unknown reason. And we also got confronted with Elliot, or Shroud. Yes, this is what the big bad guy looks like under the mask. So frightening, I know. He resembles your everyday standard minor lover. But yeah, then Robert just gets tortured for info on the Astral Pulse because, again, INVISIGAL did take it, and she did it successfully, might I add. However, she never told Robert, so we just got tortured for pretty much no reason. Thankfully, Mommy did show up to save the day. Shout out to Butt Blazer on God. She then took us back to the faded first date billboard, and some small talk began before the world started to blow up. Yes, the villains are making a full-blown out move on the city. And this brings us into episode 8, the finale. The first like 40 to 50% of the episode had us in the final dispatch shift of the day, and it's for the most part a complete mess. Like, it's genuinely hard to succeed, and I didn't on a majority of my calls. However, with this failure, I did end up getting a trophy called Phoenix is Down from healing the same hero twice in a shift. Very self-explanatory, not hard to get at all during the shift, so here it is popping. And later in the shift, you also do fight Coop, who becomes like the quote-unquote boss fight of the final shift, with us having to defeat her 5 times in different missions. Pretty bad, but not impossible by any means. And after you do defeat her, then ends the final dispatch shift, and we got a trophy from saving Los Angeles right here. And this then brings us to the final arc of the game, which was at first just a lot of back and forth between INVISIGAL and Robot because we had her tied up, and it's funny for the most part, but then you do finally take control of Mecha Man again, again, and this is the really cool part of the game's ending because it's an all-out battle against Shroud and his version of his mech. The fight is very well written, it has a lot of beats throughout it. You also do fight whoever you cut in the middle of it to split up the fight if you will, but all in all it ends with us about to be defeated. However, Chase/Trackstar pulls out the trump card and slices into Shroud's mech, stealing his power source and pretty much saving the day. He also did do this with Blonde Blazer's amulet powers, which give her powers and in turn save Chase's life. So it basically defeated Shroud. That is until he gets out of the mech after it blew up and he had Robert's dog hostage. How in the f did he get his dog? I genuinely have no clue. But we end up having to give him the Astral Pulse for the dog. It might not be a fair trade. And I chose to give him both because I felt like that was the best idea. So he then put what he thought was the Astral Pulse in his brain augment, and it worked for a second, but then it fried his brain and all of his followers as well. INVISIGAL also did show up besides him because she works for him. Of course she does, shout out to the rat. But she does redeem herself finally by slicing his throat and killing Shroud once and for all before, disappearing once again. And a trophy pops from that ending. Low-key, that's the worst ending, I'm not gonna lie. I might have horrible picking skills, this is insane. But with that all done, the Romance Blazer trophy also popped after we saved the day and kissed in the car, which basically means we're gonna fall in love and have a long-lasting relationship with 0 issues. So now it's time to go do our second playthrough, and for reference I only did do 2 of them. Now the reason the trophy guide does say 3 is because of the third optional playthrough for the Hacked by Robert trophy. However, that's pretty easily done in either the first or second playthrough, and I just did it here in my second one, which was the INVISIGAL romance playthrough. And all in all, the game is very similar on a second run, although it is fun to do the opposite of what I did the first time and notice the differences, even if they are very minor in detail. The first new trophy I got was quite a few hours later called Wash Your Back Robert, and it was from cutting Sonar this time instead of Coupe. Shout out to Charlie, and here's that trophy. And just like in the first one when we hired Waterboy and got a trophy, this time we hired Phenomenon, who was the other option. And it's a trophy from hiring him as you would expect, so here is that. Next up was called Anti-Antivirus Club, from destroying 3 antiviruses in less than 15 seconds. And this is done easily at a very specific hacking point, and the guide does lay it out clearly. Also, again, shout out to the guide creators because that hacking trophy is laid out perfectly, so big W's. But once I got to the hacking part that this trophy has gotten, I did it first try. It's easy, man, and here it is. Next up was called I'm the Guy Behind the Desk, and this is the other option when posed with telling the team who we are, and you just pretty much don't tell them, and that's how you get the trophy. Also, it is low-key the better option in the long run anyways, but here's that trophy pop. And in episode 7, I also finally got that trophy I missed from the childhood sequence. When Chase goes to the store, you have to ask for a cigar, which is the least popular item, and then at the end of the episode, the trophy will pop, and here it is. And finally, in episode 8's final dispatch, I got the Hacked by Robert trophy. It's not really too hard besides the missable ones, which is, just dumb, so thanks, developers. Anyways, upon my final hack, the trophy popped, easy dubs. So then I made it to the end of the game, and I also did Romance INVISIGAL successfully. So this time, instead of her killing Shroud, she jumped in front of his bullet for us, which saved our life. And then we proceeded to beat the shit out of him. I also did choose the good ending, and I stopped Robert from killing him. Just getting the choice, by the way, does give you this trophy called Sorry Kid. But then in the conclusion scene, INVISIGAL is on the stretcher because she was shot, and we kiss her. How cute. This also does give us her romance trophy, and here it is. Now, a little while later, while Chase is giving a news interview about what happened, we also do get the Saved Shroud Choice trophy, which popped right here, easy peasy. I then replayed the ending and chose the murder option, which is low-key my favorite, get your vengeance, Robert boy. And again, that trophy pops in the news interview once more like before. Now, the last trophy in the game I needed is called We Can Just Be Friends, from not romancing or kissing anyone by the end of the game. And you can thankfully get this by just loading up episode 7 and on from the INVISIGAL romance run, because just choosing to cut her and say mean things in the locker room triggers her to not romance us. And seeing as we didn't even try with Blazer, she doesn't either, obviously. So it just ends with 2 friends on a car sharing a beer. Hashtag friend zoned. So here's that trophy pop and the platinum trophy on Dispatch. So that was the Dispatch platinum trophy experience. Low-key one of the best games I've played in a while, and a very, very strong start to the Editor's Choice Challenge, which I'm very excited for because we actually do get to play some good games and fun games for once. Oh my god, this is crazy. Also, in regards to the 100% challenge I was, kind of doing a few months ago, rest in peace, yeah, nobody watched it, and it was honestly very boring, so my apologies, but that is not going to return. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, leave a comment down below. I like reading them. It's fun. Okay, goodbye.